The Intergalactic Council convened, a gathering of minds more ancient than stars and spanning races that had evolved across the galaxy. This governing body, tasked with ensuring peace, order, and control, operated in the shadowy reaches of space, unseen by the planets it ruled. Its purpose was singular: maintain order through mutual understanding of every species' strengths, weaknesses, and, above all, their capacity for submission when necessary. The Council's existence was whispered among civilizations, not out of fear, but as a force of calculated peace. Among the members sat beings of all shapes and sizes, a collective of elite diplomats, tacticians, and warriors. Sirkin, with his towering figure cloaked in scales, represented the strength of a species whose brute force had quelled dozens of planetary disputes. Beside him, Lyriel, whose ethereal form shimmered with each movement, was a master of subversion and mental manipulation. There were others too, organic and artificial, carbon-based and energy-formed, united under a simple goal: preserve the delicate balance of galactic dominance. Despite their differences, they shared a fundamental belief: every civilization, no matter how evolved or savage, needed a surrender protocol, a clear method to yield when the tides of war turned. The meeting was routine, reports streaming in from across the galaxy as the Council members reviewed the standing protocols of lesser-known planets. They monitored, they judged, and they moved on. Until the report on Earth surfaced. "Humanity," spoke Sirkin, his voice a rumble of thunder across the chamber. His eyes flickered, narrowing at the data stream before him. "There's something off." Lyriel floated closer, her translucent fingers tracing the glowing images that filled the air. "What do you mean?" "There's no sign of a surrender protocol." Sirkin grunted, his eyes scanning the primitive records of Earth's conflicts, battles, and wars. "They fight. They win. Or they die. But they do not yield." A silence fell over the Council as each member reviewed the report. Earth, a young civilization by galactic standards, had been marked for observation for centuries. Yet, this finding was unprecedented. "No surrender protocol," Lyriel whispered, incredulous. "That's impossible. Every species, from the lowest savages to the most advanced minds, has one. It is necessary for survival." "And yet," Sirkin growled, "they do not." The implications of this discovery rippled through the Council like a storm. Without a surrender protocol, humanity presented a danger to the galaxy's delicate order. A species that would not yield in the face of certain defeat was a species that could incite chaos. What would happen if they encountered a stronger force? Would they burn the stars around them in defiance rather than submit? "We must test them," Sirkin finally said, his voice low and firm, "before they spread beyond their solar system." "A test," Lyriel mused, the gears of her mind already turning. "But how?" "A direct attack would be noticed. Their primitive sensors, though inadequate by our standards, are sufficient to detect an invasion." "No invasion," Sirkin replied, his sharp gaze meeting hers. "Simulated attacks. Probes, subtle incursions. We create a scenario where surrender is the only logical outcome." "The goal is to understand," interjected the soft, metallic voice of Tekrin, a synthetic being of pure logic. "We must determine if their lack of protocol is intentional or an oversight born of their youth as a species. If they refuse to submit, then we have a problem." The Council debated the method, the stakes, and the consequences of this discovery. Some argued for caution, suggesting humanity's resilience was a trait that could be nurtured for greater purposes. Others saw it as a threat, an unpredictable variable in a galaxy where order was paramount. Sirkin's voice cut through the noise. "They will be tested. And if they refuse to submit, then we will know their place in the galaxy." The decision was made. The Council members dispersed, their individual forms dissolving into the void as they retreated to their respective worlds and ships. The test would be simple but effective. Humanity would face a series of orchestrated threats, each one growing more dire, until they were forced to respond in one of two ways: fight or surrender. As the Council moved forward with their plan, they were unaware of one crucial detail: humanity's spirit was unlike any they had ever encountered. The Council's plan unfolded with cold precision, Their simulations designed to stress humanity's fragile systems without raising alarms that would attract external attention. Small colonies on the outer edges of Earth's reach were the first to experience strange anomalies. Power grids flickered and failed without warning, communication lines between planets and space stations suddenly went silent, and supply shipments vanished into the void, never reaching their destinations. These disturbances were subtle at first, easily dismissed as technical failures or mismanagement. But the attacks escalated quickly. Alien technology, far more advanced than anything humanity could comprehend, slipped through Earth's rudimentary defenses with ease. Simulated attacks targeted vital infrastructures, satellites went offline, orbital defense systems malfunctioned, and key communication hubs on Earth were disrupted. Cloaked probes emitted waves of electromagnetic pulses, scrambling data streams and rendering Earth's surveillance technology useless. Their strategy was simple: sow chaos and confusion without leaving a trace. No explosions, no visible enemies, just the slow, systematic crumbling of humanity's outer defenses. For the Council, these simulated attacks were meant to test how Earth would respond under pressure. Would they rally and coordinate a defense, or would they falter, searching for ways to negotiate or submit? The Council expected panic and confusion, an inevitable reaction for a species that had never faced a threat beyond their own world. Humanity's initial reaction was exactly that. On the fringes of Earth's colonies, panic spread as systems failed without explanation. Workers on space stations scrambled to re-establish communications, while colony leaders sent frantic messages to Earth, pleading for answers. The Earth government itself, unprepared for such widespread disruption, held emergency meetings, trying to piece together the cause of these mysterious failures. Publicly, they reassured their citizens, attributing the disruptions to solar flares or random technical malfunctions. Privately, there was growing unease. On the ground, people watched as their connections to the stars began to break down. News networks speculated on the causes, while conspiracy theories ran rampant on social media. To the average person, it felt as though Earth was slowly being isolated from the universe, its reach into space retracting bit by bit. The tension built, but still, there were no clear signs of an enemy. Amid the confusion, key figures within Earth's military and scientific communities began to mobilize. General Saito, a decorated veteran of Earth's Defense Force, took charge of coordinating a response. He was quick to recognize that the disruptions were too widespread and too precise to be random. Beside him, Dr. Elena Reyes, an astrophysicist and expert in deep space communication, began to analyze the patterns. Together, they formed a task force, pulling in experts from various fields to try and determine the origin of the attacks. For the first time, humanity started to treat the situation as an organized threat. While governments scrambled to adapt, something unexpected happened. On the fringes of Earth's colonies, among the stations and settlements that had been left to fend for themselves, a form of resistance began to take shape. Without the direct support of Earth, colony leaders and station commanders took matters into their own hands. Emergency measures were enacted, rerouting power through backup systems and improvising communication channels through old, analog technology. Engineers worked around the clock, developing innovative solutions to bypass the sabotage. Unofficial networks of communication sprang up between colonies, allowing them to share tactics and resources. What the Council had not anticipated was humanity's adaptability. Even in the face of overwhelming confusion, humanity didn't crumble, it adapted. Small groups of specialists found ways to counter the effects of the simulated attacks, using old technologies and unconventional methods to restore limited functionality. They lacked the technology to detect the probes causing the disruptions, but they compensated with determination and creativity. Makeshift defenses, though rudimentary, were erected around critical stations, and contingency plans were enacted to protect what remained of Earth's fragile space infrastructure. Reports of this resistance began to trickle back to the Council. It was subtle at first, barely noticeable among the chaos they had orchestrated, but as time passed, it became undeniable. Humanity was not reacting as expected. Where most species would have begun to signal for negotiation or retreat, Earth was quietly mounting a defense, one born not of advanced technology, but of sheer resilience. The Council, watching from the shadows, took notice. As the simulated attacks continued, humanity shifted from reaction to action. Earth's leaders, no longer viewing the disruptions as isolated incidents, established a central command to coordinate a unified response. General Saito led the charge, calling upon Earth's military, scientific, and civilian sectors to pool their knowledge and resources. Supply chains were restructured, focusing on preserving the most critical infrastructure. Satellites were repurposed to provide backup communication channels, and old military assets were brought out of retirement, including decommissioned ships and outdated hardware, to bolster defenses. Sato's team developed a strategy built on flexibility and decentralization. Rather than relying on centralized control, they empowered local colonies and stations to make decisions autonomously. This gave each sector the ability to adapt swiftly to the unpredictable attacks. Mobile command units were deployed across space, coordinating efforts remotely and feeding crucial data back to Earth. This gave humanity the agility it needed to react in real time, even when communications were severed or resources cut off. Dr. Reyes, leveraging her deep space expertise, worked with engineers to reroute power grids and create hidden communication frequencies, beyond the range of the Council's technology. This allowed for secure transmissions between scattered human forces, keeping them connected when the enemy believed them isolated. On the ground and in orbit, new strategies emerged. Space stations, once vulnerable to attack, developed cloaking techniques using repurposed mining drones to create false targets. Colonies began running power through non-traditional grids, with entire cities operating off of scavenged solar energy and manually operated backup systems. Military units used guerrilla-style tactics in space, deploying small, fast-moving craft to confuse and overwhelm what they perceived as automated attacks. The flexibility and speed of human improvisation disrupted the Council's simulations, creating gaps in their carefully calculated plans. Key moments of human ingenuity began to shine through. At one remote colony, engineers devised a way to shield their communications by modifying industrial-grade plasma fields, intended for mining, to jam the alien probe's signals. This allowed them to maintain critical lines to Earth while evading detection. Another pivotal moment occurred when a group of retired naval officers, using nothing but an antiquated ship and outdated torpedoes, managed to destroy one of the simulated probes, marking the first successful human counterattack against the unseen threat. Perhaps the most remarkable display came when a civilian research team discovered a pattern in the disruptions. They realized the alien simulations relied on precise timing to overwhelm multiple systems at once. By using Earth's unpredictable weather and atmospheric interference, they created a shield of sorts, masking key transmissions with natural static and making it harder for the Council to target specific locations. This breakthrough allowed human forces to protect vital infrastructure and coordinate efforts across the globe and beyond. As these countermeasures began to take effect, the Council's simulations faltered. Their calculated strategy, meant to induce chaos and submission, was meeting unexpected resistance. The aliens had anticipated that humanity would crumble without advanced technology to fall back on, yet what they found instead was a species able to adapt quickly, using every available resource to not only survive but push back. From their distant vantage point, the Council watched with growing interest and confusion. They had assumed that humanity's lack of a formal surrender protocol was a sign of primitive defiance, but what they were witnessing was far more complex. Humanity, it seemed, was not built to surrender, not because of arrogance or ignorance, but because of their ability to adapt, innovate, and fight through every obstacle thrown their way. The more the Council observed, the more they saw a pattern that defied their expectations. Human resilience wasn't merely a refusal to submit. It was an ingrained trait, born of centuries of struggle and survival. Their simulations were being met not with panic, but with ingenuity and relentless effort. The Council's carefully laid plans were being unraveled, and with each passing day, they began to question whether this test would yield the results they had anticipated. The Council reconvened, their initial confidence shaken by the unexpected results of the simulations. What they had assumed would be a straightforward analysis of a primitive species had turned into something far more complex. Sirkin opened the debate, his tone less assured than before. The initial idea of a species without a surrender protocol had implied recklessness or naivety, but the reality was far different. Humanity's response had been anything but primitive. They had adapted, resisted, and even managed to turn the attacks back against the Council's simulations. Lyriel spoke next, highlighting the resourcefulness humans displayed under pressure. Their ability to improvise, coupled with their resilience in the face of overwhelming odds, had defied every model the Council had constructed. What they had observed was not a civilization that lacked the capacity to surrender. It was a species that didn't operate within the boundaries of traditional warfare. Their strength lay not in technological superiority, but in their unyielding spirit and creativity. It was clear now that any attempt to subdue Earth through traditional means would be met with fierce and unpredictable resistance. The Council analyzed every aspect of humanity's responses, from the decentralized defense strategies to the clever use of natural phenomena like atmospheric interference. This level of adaptation indicated a species capable of rapid evolution, even in the face of overwhelming challenges. Some members argued that humanity's ingenuity made them a potential threat to the established order, while others saw them as a valuable ally, one whose unconventional approach could bring new perspectives to the galaxy's challenges. Humanity's lack of a formal surrender protocol now seemed less like a dangerous oversight and more like a reflection of their deep-rooted independence and resilience. As the debate continued, it became clear that further simulations would not yield the results the Council had expected. The tests, designed to push humanity toward submission, had only proven their capacity for resistance. Tekran, the synthetic being of pure logic, proposed ending the simulations. Continuing them, he argued, would risk provoking a species that clearly thrived on challenge. Others agreed. Humanity had demonstrated a level of sophistication that warranted caution, not conflict. The Council came to a formal decision. The simulated attacks would cease immediately. Humanity had passed their test, not by submitting, but by proving themselves capable of facing overwhelming adversity without breaking. It was clear now that any attempt to conquer or manipulate them would be met with fierce, unpredictable resistance. The Council agreed that the best course of action was not further aggression but a diplomatic approach, one that acknowledged humanity's unique strengths and potential. Plans were quickly drawn up to shift from a strategy of conflict to one of diplomacy. The Council's emissaries, representing various races and factions, prepared to make formal contact with Earth's leaders. The initial contact would be framed not as a confrontation but as an offer for peaceful dialogue. Humanity had earned a seat at the table, not as a conquered species, but as a player in the broader galactic community. The Council, in their wisdom, recognized the potential for mutual benefit. A species capable of such adaptability might offer insights and innovations that the Council's more rigid systems could not provide. As the preparations for diplomatic engagement began, there was a quiet acknowledgement among the Council members that their understanding of humanity had fundamentally shifted. What had begun as a test of submission had become a lesson in resilience. Humanity's defiance wasn't reckless. It was a reflection of their core identity. They had evolved in a world that required constant adaptation, and that evolution had made them uniquely suited for survival in the vast, unpredictable galaxy. The Council, once certain of their superiority, now approached this new phase with a sense of humility. They had been challenged by a species they had underestimated, and now they were forced to reconsider what it meant to maintain order in a galaxy filled with diverse forms of life. Humanity, in all their chaotic, unpredictable glory, had proven themselves worthy of respect. As the Council prepared to initiate contact, they knew the galaxy was about to change in ways they had not anticipated. The Council made their move with precision and care. A formal emissary was dispatched to Earth, their ship cloaked in layers of diplomacy and caution. This was no longer a mission of dominance but one of respect, driven by the lessons learned from humanity's unexpected resilience. The message they carried was simple yet profound, an invitation to dialogue, a chance for Earth to join the greater galactic community as equals, not subordinates. The emissary's arrival in Earth's orbit was not marked by grandiose displays of power but by subtlety, as they reached out to the planet's leadership through channels they had observed during the simulations. On Earth, the sudden contact from an alien civilization sparked both awe and trepidation. For decades, humanity had speculated about life beyond their planet, but now it was a reality. The world's leaders convened swiftly, their initial response one of caution mixed with curiosity. General Saito, who had led the defense against the simulated attacks, was among the first to meet with the Council's representatives. Alongside him were key political figures and scientific minds like Dr. Reyes, all eager to understand the true nature of their new extraterrestrial visitors. The initial exchanges between the two sides were marked by a careful balance of curiosity and diplomacy. Humanity, still grappling with the reality of their place in a larger galactic order, approached the Council's offer with a mix of pride and pragmatism. They had survived the tests, and now they were being welcomed into a broader universe. The Council, for their part, expressed admiration for humanity's resilience and adaptability, acknowledging that their species had proven far more capable than anticipated. With trust slowly being built, both sides began to establish the foundations of their future relationship. New protocols were drafted to ensure peaceful coexistence and cooperation. Earth would retain its sovereignty but would be invited to participate in the Council's broader mission to maintain galactic order. Humanity's lack of a surrender protocol was no longer seen as a threat but as a sign of their unique perspective on survival and conflict. The Council, in turn, shared knowledge that would help Earth strengthen its defenses and expand its understanding of the universe. Joint initiatives were soon underway. Collaborative exploration ventures were launched, with human scientists and engineers working alongside alien counterparts to push the boundaries of known space. Earth's infrastructure began to integrate advanced technology provided by the Council, improving everything from communication networks to space travel. Humanity's role in the galaxy, once uncertain, was now solidifying as a partner in the larger pursuit of knowledge and peace. Both sides reflected on the encounter with a sense of growth. For humanity, the lessons learned were profound. They had stood against an invisible threat and emerged not only intact but stronger for it. The simulated attacks had forced them to tap into their deepest reserves of creativity and cooperation, revealing strengths they hadn't fully realized. For the Council, the encounter had shattered preconceived notions of superiority. They had been forced to recognize that their methods, while effective for most species, were not universally applicable. Humanity's defiance had taught them that diversity in thought and approach could be a strength, not a weakness. As the relationship between Earth and the Council deepened, both sides looked toward the future with optimism. The tests, once intended to measure humanity's submission, had instead forged a new path of mutual respect and cooperation. The galaxy was vast, and together they would explore it, learning from one another and growing stronger as allies. Humanity, with their unique blend of resilience and ingenuity, had earned their place among the stars. The Council, for all their ancient wisdom, had gained a new understanding of what it meant to coexist with a species as adaptable and determined as the humans. In the end, the future of Earth and the Intergalactic Council was one of hope and possibility. The encounter had begun with a test, but it concluded with an alliance built on trust and mutual respect, setting the stage for a new chapter in both their histories. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. I promise you, nothing will happen to your finger.